This is round 6, extra turn. And this is one very special episode of Game Brain because right now we are over 1 month into a COVID-19 quarantine that has it's meant basically that we've had to force ourselves to game virtually, which, as I've said before, I hate gaming virtually. But not with today's guests, because today's guests and I have been gaming face-to-face for the last month, and they're here to provide some perspective on gaming for the Generation Z crowd. Please welcome AIDAN Donnelly.
Hello there.
And SOLEA Donnelly.
Hi.
Now, I noticed you both have the same last name. Is there any relation?
No, just coincidence.
Just coincidence?
It's crazy, really.
It's weird. AIDAN Donnelly, you are a junior in high school. Is that correct?
Yep.
And SOLEA Donnelly, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, SOLEA Donnelly, you are a freshman in high school. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And about your family of origin, do you guys come from a family that really never played games or gamed a little bit, or would you consider yourselves to come from a gaming family?
Definitely from a gaming family.
I mean, with a father like Thomas Donnelly,
Whoa, you got a dad who has the same name as me?
It is crazy.
Crazy.
That's insane. That is insane. So, how are you guys feeling? Is this your first time on a podcast?
Yep.
Yep.
No, wait, AIDAN, I thought you'd recorded a podcast before.
No, well, aside from a couple school projects, yeah.
AIDAN used this very same equipment to record a wonderful podcast about the Devil in the White City.
Yeah, about a serial killer.
Yeah.
But the audio quality was fantastic.
Well, we try. AIDAN and SOLEA, you guys are younger than us. I think the youngest, I don't know, we're old people. To you, to our listeners, we're perfectly fine ages, but to you guys, we're all decrepit dinosaurs. I understand that, right? By the way, you're nodding right now, which in the audio medium does not work very well.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. We're old. We're what's the phrase you used with me all the time?
Boomer.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Oh,
But
God.
you say, okay, boomer,
Okay, boomer.
to me all the time?
Only Solea.
Yeah.
Yeah, only me. It was a phase.
To be clear, I'm Gen X. Okay? To be
We
clear.
are aware.
Do I mention that every time?
Yes.
Yes, I do. But you guys are Gen Z.
Yeah.
You're not even millennials. You're
Zoomers.
You're the Zoomers.
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
right. You guys are the Zoomers. You are the next generation. And what I would like to know, and what I think our listeners might like to know, is where you fit into games and gaming. You guys, I think it's safe to say, you're very different gamers, right?
Yes. We're polar opposites.
Polar opposites. And would it surprise you to know that in our game group, we also have polar opposites?
No, not with Paul.
Not with Paul?
He's always finding an innovative way of playing things.
To be clear, Paul is their uncle. As I said many times. I don't know if people believe this or not, but Paul is my brother-in-law. So Uncle Paul is a frequent guest of the podcast. So I'm going to tell you the names of the people that are on the podcast and what their names on the podcast are. So we have Alfred. I'm not sure you guys ever met Alfred. Great guy, really. Oh, AIDAN, you met him?
I believe so.
Oh, dude, yeah. When did you meet Alfred? Tell me the circumstances.
Oh my gosh. We went to a silent concert on Santa Monica Pier, and it was the first time I'd done something like that, and it was really neat because everyone had these headphones, and they glowed either green or blue. And Alfred was I believe the green DJ at the time.
Yep.
And it was really fun. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because when he switched with the person that had been doing the green channel before him, there was a surprising number of people that were changing from blue to green. Then it was fantastic.
So Alfred in our group is the rules lawyer. All right, that's his official title. He's the rules lawyer. He'll be the one that'll be like, you're playing that wrong. I believe that the proper way to do it is things like that. Or excuse me, did you take 2 wheat for that action? Because I believe you were only supposed to get 1 wheat, right? So who in our gaming group, which is our immediate family, including Paul and all that sort of stuff, who would be the rules lawyer?
Either you or AIDAN.
Yep, I think that's probably true.
Yep.
Then we have Dimitri. Now, we all know Dimitri.
Yeah.
Solea, what do you think about Dimitri?
I think he's great.
Yeah, Dimitri's the best,
He's
isn't
the
he?
best. Yeah, he's very funny.
He's very funny. Dimitri, his name has changed. He's now called the Philosophical Gamer because he's just a very philosophical guy. But originally, and in our heart of hearts, he is the non-gamer. And by non-gamer, he's like, I just want to hang out with my friends.
That would be my title.
That's right.
That
Wouldn't you be
that
the
would
non-gamer?
100%
Yep.
be mine. Yeah.
Totally. Then my friend Elder's the professor because he actually teaches gaming and things like that at universities.
That's Tom. That's you.
Then there is Jake, the casual gamer. He's like kind of the guy that'll, if you're playing a game, he'll play a game.
That was definitely our mom.
Yeah, totally. Then Jennifer is the game pioneer. Like she's been doing this she's been gaming for a long time and was really introducing a lot of people to new games over many, many years. Me again?
Yep.
Yeah. In comparison to me, Jennifer is like what I am to you. Jennifer is to me. Jennifer is a real, big time. Then Jesse is the analytical gamer. He's always thinking about it. Say it.
Definitely Aiden.
Yeah, that's Aiden.
Probably.
Big time. And then Maddie is the game enthusiast. He's a guy that's just tremendously just up for anything. Just
Good, that's definitely you and Aiden.
And then, of course, we got Paul, the game breaker.
Yeah.
Pretty much, we don't have one of those except for Paul himself, right?
Yep.
That's Paul.
It makes the game so interesting, though. It's so fun.
Especially with our family.
How so?
In a lot of games, we tend to play it out a very similar way each time, and he is a random card in that.
Oh, yeah. Like in Ricochet Robots, he'll call out like a crazy high number.
Yep.
And just like see if he can figure it out in time. And that's something no one's ever thought of. We like find the route and then say it.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that on this show. We've talked about how, that's one of his hallmarks is trying to come up with a new way to play an old game and to change up the dynamic, which he does. I mean, it's not always successful. I mean, it doesn't always result in a win, but it always makes the game more interesting. And then last but not least, there's Trey. As you guys know Trey, right? Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about Trey?
He's great.
He's great.
Really?
Funny.
Yeah,
sure?
super
Fun.
funny.
You like him? All right. Trey is the game designer because, as you well know, not only does he design LARPs with me, but he also has a business designing educational games for museums and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
that is our group. And so you guys think, Aiden, of all of those, which one? We said there were a couple that were like you. Which do you think you are the most?
Likely the analytical gamer.
I think that's very, very true. And Solea, you're kind of in between Dimitri and Jake, I think. You're kind of in between the non-gamer and the casual gamer. Would you say that's right?
I would say that's correct.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. We have the analytical gamer and we have the casual gamer, which are very, in our game group, those are different ends of the spectrum.
Ends, yeah.
Those are totally different ends of the spectrum. So putting together game time with the family is a tricky thing because we got to figure out a way to make these things work. So let's start with I'm not even asking for a game right now, but what makes you happy when you're playing a game? What is something that you love about games?
Probably my favorite thing in a game is trying to, I guess, a game that forces you to try to anticipate your opponent's next moves going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I like a game where I have to gauge a series of actions that I can take against the series of actions I anticipate my opponent taking many rounds in advance. So like Twilight Struggle, for example, is probably my favorite game.
Can you tell Aiden's jumped into the deep end, ladies and gentlemen? Aiden is all in.
Yeah.
And Solea, you were shaking your head at the...
Yeah.
Is that the opposite of what you like in a game?
Complete opposite. I like games that are fast paced and really make you think, but it's not like a long drawn out strategy. It's more of a fast pace, just like have fun with other people, and it's not going to take up a huge portion of your day, but you definitely do think. And I really like mystery games.
Deduction games, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's they do have a strategy that's a little bit longer than something like Ricochet Robots, but it still seems like there's a beginning and an end, and there's less anticipation because the game kind of does that for you.
Gotcha. And Ricochet Robots fits into the category of the games you like because it's very short and because
fast, and it's a brain game. It's really hard.
Yeah, I've noticed that. A lot of non-gamers or casual gamers, the brain game thing isn't always a draw for them. For some of them is. Actually, I think for Jake it is. I think Jake loves Ricochet Robots too, and he's the casual gamer.
Oh, it's got to be one of my favorite games.
Yeah. What is it about it that makes it so great for you?
Well, part of the thing is I used to play it when I was like 7,
Mm-hmm.
and it would destroy me. I wouldn't be able to like get a single one, and AIDAN and you would just 6 or just call out it so quickly. And partly when I came back to it at 14 and I was actually able to get them pretty quickly, that was exciting. But there's also that feeling of like accomplishment once you get it and you're like, wow, I'm starting to see these patterns more clearly.
Right. Yeah.
Pattern recognition.
So you grew with the game to some
Yes.
degree, and you can chart your own mental progress. By that
Yeah,
game,
no, that was fun.
which is kind of neat. For those that don't know, Ricochet Robots is an abstract strategy game in which we are moving robots on a slick floor that has got some walls in some places and some target locations. There are 5 colors of robots. 4 of those colors of robots have 4 spaces each that they have to get to. The problem being that once a robot starts moving, it will not stop moving until it hits either a wall or another robot. So sometimes to get the robot to the space it needs to go to, you're going to have to move other robots to get in the way of it, to stop it, and to change its direction.
So you're moving the robot to ricochet off of any solid wall or other robot.
Exactly. Yeah, you guys have come a long way in Ricochet Robots. When we first started playing, I used to have to go easy on you.
Yep.
I no longer go easy on you.
No.
And unfortunately, you guys do not go easy on me, and I don't understand why that happens, but I can't remember the last time I won Ricochet Robots. You guys are both really good at that game. Really good. It's crazy. SOLEA, what would you say, like, if you had to pick like 2 or 3 games that are your favorites, what are they?
Oh, Mr. Jack.
Mr. Jack is a deduction game?
Yeah, it's Clue, which I used to play all the time when I was younger, but it's harder and it's more of an interactive game. With Clue, it's a little bit more like the game already has everything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
But with Mr. Jack, it's more depending on what the other person is doing, and
Yeah, so
it's more adaptive.
Clue you can play with 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Jack is a 2-player game.
Correct. 2-player only, and one person plays the detective, and the other person plays
Mr. Jack.
Yeah, Mr. Jack. And the idea is there are 8 pieces on the board, and only Mr. Jack knows which one of those 8 pieces is actually Jack the Ripper. And he's trying to put things into a certain way so that Jack can escape off of the board. Whereas the detective is trying to eliminate players, and that's mostly done by how many of these pieces on the board can be seen in the gas lights that are going out as the game goes on, and how many can't be seen. And Jack has to reveal whether or not he's seen or unseen each round, which is a really good dynamic, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's like the right amount of time.
Yeah, it's not too long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And it's a real challenge every time we play it, isn't it?
Yeah, and each side has like an equal opportunity.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think it's probably easier for the detectives and harder for Jack, but not by too much. Jack wins. If Jack gets the right character, Miss Stealthy and
Can immediately win.
well, no, because it has to be dark.
That's true.
Each character has a
round.
new set of skills. Like one can move through walls and one can teleport, go through potholes. So each, depending on the character that Mr. Jack is in that game, it can be way harder or easier.
Yeah. I think the last few times we played Mr. Jack the Ripper has been bad characters, like characters that are not that don't have a really good advantage.
Yeah,
which is tricky, but. Very good game. What else? What else are your some of your
there's
tops?
so many. I would say I really like Castles of the Mad King Ludwig.
I would say that if there's a game that you've requested more than any other game, it is Castles of Mad King Ludwig. So tell us about Castles of Mad King Ludwig. What is the game? We've talked about it very briefly on the podcast, but never given a full description.
So you're working for the King Ludwig, and you're buying pieces for your castle. So you can buy a kitchen or a outdoor area or a sleeping area, and you're trying to build a castle that's going to give you the most points at the end of the game, and there's certain criteria for what gets you points, and that changes every game. But another fun aspect is no matter whether you win or lose, you still get to build a castle that is really interesting and fun with all different passageways.
Yeah, and we have a discussion at the end of the game. It's almost like in our family. Okay, so SOLEA won on the points, but really, the real question is which castle would you want to live in? Mama's castle is awesome, but she doesn't have any of this. And Aidan's castle, look, he's got the billiard room,
all activity rooms.
He's got the horse stables, and he's got a bowling alley, and that's a pretty fun place. But he's got nowhere to sleep, and he's got no kitchen.
Yeah, and that's almost the an equal goal to winning, to get a castle that's fun to live in. I
had once the cheese room, the wine cellar. I was good to go.
Yeah.
I had a nap room or something like that. So I was all set. I was like, this is my ideal castle. I think I lost that game by a large margin because I was solely going for the best castle win condition as opposed to the victory point win condition. Another good thing about that game is that it's very spatial. The rooms are different shapes and different sizes. There are large circles, large squares, small squares, long corridor type structures downstairs because there's basement areas that come up, and each room only has a certain number of openings, and so fitting doorways with doorways, it could become a real interesting challenge sometimes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, part of the question is when you're buying, is this going to fit, or am I going to close off this area?
Yeah, totally. And Aidan, for you said Twilight Struggle. Would you say that's your number one game?
Yeah, probably.
What's great about it? What do you like?
Well, aside from the aforementioned necessity to try to anticipate your opponent's actions and weigh that against your own for several rounds in advance, it's I don't know. It's really fun. It's it's something I can sit down. It absorbs all of my attention, and I can desperately try to beat you,
which you do sometimes.
Occasionally, it does happen. It's really fun. There's I think part of it is also maybe the theme. I do love history, so learning about the Cold War. After playing the game was an interesting activity in school.
Which is an interesting side subject. Let's get into it right now. You're taking AP US History right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Has the playing of Twilight Struggle so many times in any way helped you in your studies?
To an extent.
Yeah.
To an extent. Though I'd say, for cards such as De Gaulle leads France and such, I knew who Charles de Gaulle was already, but in general, it's more recognizing, oh, wow, that's why the Warsaw Pact is such a powerful card.
So it's less that it's teaching you things, but more like when I don't know, I think that's still a good thing. In APUSH and AP US History, you're being bombarded by so many facts. By the time you get up to the Cold War, to stay focused is pretty hard, but having played Twilight Struggle, you're like, oh, defectors. That's why that card is like that. I get it now. Okay, here's the Cuban Missile Crisis. I totally know why all of a sudden the DEF CON has said it too. And
Immediately, yeah.
That's awesome. And now, over our lives, you guys have played lots of games. We played games with you since you were very, very, very little. What games helped you learn things? Because that's something that games can do that, in particular for youngins like yourselves, can be a big thing.
10 Days in the USA is how I, was able to do all of the states in 5th grade, and then a lot of geography in 8th and even 9th grade.
Yeah. So 10 Days in the USA. Tell us about that game. And then, by the way, we have 3 of them, right? There's 10 Days in the USA.
10 days in Europe and Africa. And then there's one for Asia, but we don't have it.
And there's one for South America as well. We also don't have Central and South America.
But you're mapping a route, and you have to be able to get to each state. So you can walk from Utah to
Nevada.
And then from Nevada to California.
Obviously, the lessons you learned from that game don't always stay with you.
Maybe not, but so you're trying to make a route that works, and you can use planes or cars to get there. But my dad would print out these cards that had the information. So if I would go to like California, there would be a card attached to it that explained the state, the bird, the
capital,
flower,
everything.
Yeah, because sometimes that would be something you would be quizzed on, right?
Yeah, and I feel like learning games sometimes, especially at the time, were not my favorite because they were trying to introduce a lot of them in school, and I found them to be boring, and just like you obviously could tell that they were trying to get you to learn. Mm-hmm. But 10 Days is still a game that I really like to play, and it doesn't feel like a learning game, but you're gaining a lot of knowledge from it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we talked about that with Trey because Trey designs these educational simulation games at the Reagan Library. He has one called the Situation Room and all that sort of stuff. And the way to balance that is a really tough thing. Like a lot of educational games up until quite recently they've been so focused on the education that they kind of leave the game part out. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? There are games out there that are great for education. You just have to use them in such a way. And 10 Days, I played 10 Days today. I like that game.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a fun game. So what, Solea?
You played it today?
No, I said I would play it today.
Oh, same, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. I think it's a really good game. And even without adding the flashcard part of it that I'm talking about, even that, if you guys were to look at a map of Africa or a map of Europe, you could probably, if without the names being on there, you could probably pick out most of the states. For instance, here we go. Little quiz.
Oh, no.
Here we go. The quiz. Solea, what is the capital of Finland?
a classic.
Helsinki.
Helsinki is correct.
What happens when a boaty don't floaty and I don't know the rest.
Where's a place you don't want to go when you die?
Where's a place you don't want to go when you die? And what happens when a boaty don't floaty?
Helsinki.
So we came up with all sorts of ways to mnemonics to remember things like that.
Indeed.
And what's the capital of Norway?
Oslo.
Very good. Yeah, these guys can pretty much knock it out. They're pretty good. Solea, what is the capital of Slovakia?
Bratislava.
Bratislava, it is correct. So, yeah, they can kind of go through all the different countries of Europe and name them, and probably even some in Africa, though. We played that one. We played that one the least. I think it's because by the time we got that one, you guys were older and were kind of moving on to other games at that point.
Just last semester, I used that map a lot in global issues.
I was about to say, in 5th grade, it was helpful to play the U.S. states game because we were having to learn that. But in global issues, for a semester, we had to learn every country and every capital in the world. So Europe, the U.S., and Africa, we had covered really well. So that was really helpful.
So while your classmates were struggling and studying and all that sort of stuff, you're like, oh, yeah, no, I got it. No. Yeah, it's where you don't want to go when you die, and it's what happens when a boaty don't floaty. Come on.
Yeah, it was. We have entire tests where we have to fill out a blank map, and the little countries in Africa like Togo and Ghana and all of that. Those can be really difficult.
Yeah, but not for you because
the game
you already got it.
A lot.
Yeah,
Asia was tough. Southeast Asia.
Asia was very
because
difficult.
we didn't play the game.
It's a travesty.
You guys should have told me. We would have gotten that game.
Yeah, come on.
I got no problem with that. Other games also. What did you say? It's like Memory. Yes, other games. Now there are games that you use to study that are educational in that way. There are other games that work the brain. something that us older people are having an issue with now is dementia and all that sort of stuff. And we're finding that things like doing puzzles and reading, keeping the mind active is a really, really important thing to stave off dementia, to reduce the effects of it and to reduce its onset, to shorten its onset to later in life. You guys do a lot of brain training type of games. None more than Solea's favorite game.
In memory.
Memory. So we have to explain something here. I think AIDAN is the champion of ricochet robots.
For sure.
Solea can sometimes win, Daddy can sometimes win, but mostly AIDAN wins. And it is a speed of pattern recognition game where you are looking at a board and the solution could be 3 moves, the solution could be 20 moves, and you have to quickly move through all the different combinations. It's like your brain is literally trying to be a computer and break down a complex cipher into a single solution. And AIDAN's brain has been cross-training like it's preparing for the Olympics for this for years and years and years, and you've gotten so fast, my man. I mean, crazy.
I really like the game. if there's ever a solution that I come to within like the first second, we'll just move on.
And you almost get like disappointed when the solution is under
like 4 moves because I get it instantly.
Yeah, but if there's anything that's crazy hard, there's a point where I just give up because I know that the person who's going to get it is AIDAN, and if he can't, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah, Uncle Paul is driving back from Florida as we speak. He's leaving Texas today on the rest of his journey. He's left Florida yesterday. And when he gets back, we're going to have to play Ricochet Robots with him. And I just want you guys to know that he never, ever, ever backed off and stopped you guys from crying. So I want you guys to make him cry because he loves Ricochet Robots. It's in his top 10 games, and you're going to destroy him.
I mean, we'll see.
I'm ready to avenge my 7-year-old tears.
I don't know if he instantly calls out like 9. I don't know if I can get it in the next 30 seconds.
You probably can. Especially if he calls out 9. You got him. You got him there. Yeah. So that's your game. But Solea, since she was 5 years old,
4.
Since you were 4 years old, has been truly, and I mean this in the deepest sense of the word, unbeatable at memory.
Been beaten once.
In all those years.
When I was 4 or 5.
To put it into perspective, AIDAN and I played a game against Solea where the two of us were working together to figure out where the things are. Memory is a very simple game. You have a whole bunch of tiles. Each tile has one tile that's exactly the same as it. They're all flipped down, and a person takes a turn flipping up 2, and if they match, they get that pair. Solea against AIDAN and I together beat us 20-13, something along those lines, something insane. And when she was 4 years old, she could do it as well. She would just look at the map and something from a half hour ago, she would remember, oh yeah, it's this one and this one. That is something that's always been a strength of your brain. And it's kind of amazing to watch. It's almost like, I don't want to say savant, but it's a little bit savant-y.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's also, I only play one set, which is like a Dora set. I really connected with that when I was little. So some of the tiles now are a little bit like ripped and stuff, so you can make a match, but you're very good about it. You always point out, you say, this is a tile that's a little different than the others, so notice this one, and this one is the mappa. Before the game, I'm like, okay, one match of the map has this big rip on it. This is the tile. Okay, everyone sees it. All right, now let's play. And to make it even more confusing, AIDAN and Solea grew up speaking Spanish as their very first language, and English was they spoke English and Spanish from birth. So we always watched Dora as Dora la Exploradora in Espanol. So it's not the map, it's mapa, and it's not backpack, it's mochila. Yeah. And so like everything has Dora saltando.
Dora saltando, the Dora jumping. So I have a theory that maybe your advantage would go away if we brought out a different memory set that had totally different tiles. But then that was the theory. But then at the Cousins, we played some like princess set. Uh-oh. And Devastation.
I think someone started crying. It wasn't a good. It wasn't the best experience, but I think that we foiled that theory.
Okay, so regardless, you are a memory champion. That's awesome. Let's talk about some other games. Memory we talked about, but what about the mind? I've played the game with you a couple times. What do you guys think of it?
I love it.
Yeah?
It is the one where you are trying to play a sequence of cards from lowest to highest, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
The bunnies.
So,
Yes,
yes,
bunnies.
it does have the bunnies. So, do they know what the game is?
I think we've talked about it on the podcast. It's a game that simulates telepathy. There's a deck of cards that go from 1 to 100, and each person in first round gets one card. And they look at each other, and they focus on each other, and then they wait until somebody turns over the first card. And the idea is you want to turn them over sequentially from lowest to highest, which, hey, if somebody's got 1, they turn it over immediately. If somebody's got 99, they're going to wait until the cows come home before they turn over their card. And if somebody else has 100, they're going to be staring at each other for a long time. But that's the sort of psychology of it. If you succeed in that, the next round, you deal 2 cards each, and you see how far you can get. How far do you think we got, Aidan? I think one time we got something
maybe
insane.
6 cards.
No, I think we got 12 once, didn't we? Not with you?
Not with us. I don't believe so. But there was 4 of us, and we each had 6 cards, I believe.
4 is really
6
hard.
or 7. So those 24, maybe 28 cards there on the table.
And the best thing is when you have one of those runs where everybody's numbers are close together and you get it, right?
I mean, it takes a couple tries initially because you have to figure out the pacing of the other people at the table. Mm-hmm. Some people are like Grandma are more reluctant to play a card, even if they'll take more time.
Yes.
So you have to get an idea of their pacing. But once you've got that, once you can kind of feel that out, it's incredible the amount of times that you will get right a sequence where you have 21, they have 22, and somebody else has like 24, because nobody knows. And sometimes there'll be a gap where the last card plays was like 47, and the next lowest card that anyone at the table has is like 80, and everyone's just waiting, and they'll figure it out.
What games do we play the most with the family? Because you mentioned playing with Grandma. What games do we play as a family? Because we have the entire family over. That's Paul and his wife, Auntie B. Barrington, Grandma, Uncle Greg. We have sort of a big group for dinners quite often. And when we do that, we almost always play a game afterwards. What are some of the games we play afterwards?
7 Wonders.
7 Wonders, big time. Probably the most played, right?
Yep.
What else? What other games do we play in those sort of situations?
Cartagena a lot.
Cartagena, we're playing a lot. That's true.
A while back, Skulls and Roses.
Skulls and Roses,
Ooh.
big time. Yeah, definitely.
Wits and Wagers occasionally.
Sure. Yeah. We play the Wits and Wagers. Absolutely.
Once or twice.
So let's start with 7 Wonders. I think as our most played family game, where do we sit on it? What do we think? Soleil, what do you think?
I think it's a fun game. I think it can sometimes take a little bit longer than I would have hoped, but I don't know. I think that depends on the people playing.
Yep.
I think it's super interesting. It takes time to learn the strategy. Like you should get resources the first round because they're more expensive the second round. And you also have to know which board you're playing. Like Giza, you want to play a bunch of blue cards. And Halicarnassus, I personally, that's my favorite, and I like playing sciences. So there's a lot of little like...
Yup.
Aiden agrees.
It's a lot of things that would be difficult for a first-time learner in that game, but once you learn it, it's a really fun game to play with a lot of people.
Skulls and Roses. Tell me about that, Aiden.
I love Skulls and Roses. It is a fun game. You have four tiles. 3 are roses. 1 has a skull on it. And at the beginning of every round, everyone places one of those tiles out in front of them. And
Face up?
Face down. And then somebody bets a number. And what they were betting is, this is the number of roses I can flip over on this table, right? So the play will go around, and people will either bet higher or they will pass. And once somebody bets a number that nobody else thinks they can beat, they will all pass, and that person has to flip over that number of roses. If they flip over a skull, they have to give up one of their tiles. So eventually, the game ends when one person is the only one with tiles remaining, and it can become a thing where if you realize that one person only has a skull, you're never going to pick them. And if you realize that somebody only has roses, they're a freebie.
It's really fun to watch everyone like start to not trust people. Like our uncle Greg is notorious for putting a skull, and then our grandma too will just surprise you and put a skull. And so the people who are flipping, who got the highest number, you slowly just watch their sanity kind of like they start to question everything and people. It's really fun.
It's a really fun game. I will say that I played this game with many different people and not just our family. And our family plays a little different.
Yes. With many things.
I would agree.
They play a little different. And I blame Paul. I blame the Game Breaker.
Yeah.
I think Game Breaker is one who said, is like, why on earth would you put a flower? Why would you put a rose? It should be skull, skull, skull all day long. And then once half of the group are out of it entirely, only then do you start playing roses. And Greg does that all the time now. And so we have a very skull-heavy game in which somebody invariably is going to bid just 3. They're going to flip over their own rose, and then they're out of 7 other people, they're going to just try to find 2 roses. And half of the time, there aren't 2 roses.
Our mom usually has a rose, and that's about all you can.
Yeah, Moira is she's not. You can't rely on.
But if you're pretty sure everything else is roses, your safest bet is skulls. If everything else is skulls, your safest bet would be our mom.
Well, I'd say that our family has a bit of a dynamic in this game, as in Seven Wonders. But Mama and Grandma will often hint at what they have if you're looking at them. Absolutely. Because they don't want to hurt you, I mean, they care about you, so they don't want you to flip their skull. It's very frightening flipping yours or Uncle Paul's because there's just no reading you. And
Grandma avoids eye contact if she has a skull. She won't look at you.
Grandma and Greg tend to make it very late into the game because they don't bet.
Yeah, they don't try. They don't go for it at all.
They play it very safe.
They wait. They wait and see what happens.
Yes,
I think that is very, very true. Aiden, what are some other of your favorite games? Because you only mentioned Twilight Struggle as being your favorite game. What other games really sing to you?
Well, I personally really, really like Tichu. I like Codenames a lot.
Yeah.
I enjoy Winner's Circle as a very fun game.
I don't think we've talked about Winner's Circle on the show. Tell us about Winner's Circle.
Winner's Circle is a game in which you are betting on horses in a race. So there are 8 horses. They line up. One is first, one is last, and there is a series of tiles that are randomly flipped over to represent each horse in a given round. And they have 4 symbols, which correspond to symbols on a die. Horsehead, saddle, I don't remember the other 2.
Horseshoe and helmet.
Correct. 3 of the sides of that die are horse heads. So there's a 50% chance of getting a horse head and a 1 in 6 chance of getting any of the other 3. These tiles have a number of spaces that the horse will move forward if that is rolled and that horse is chosen to move.
And they're named after very famous horses. So Citation, which was a Triple Crown winner.
Stymie.
Has exactly.
Sir Barton.
Regret.
What else?
I mean, there's...
Old Pap.
Oh, Old Rosebud.
Rosebud. There you go. Good. Old Rosebud. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Famous horses. So Citation, for instance, moves 7 spaces if it gets a horse head.
Yeah.
It moves 2 spaces if it has
Anything
a saddle.
else.
It moves 1 space if it gets a horseshoe. So 50% of the time, it's going to move 7, which is a good amount of movement.
Because the die, 3 sides of the die is a horse head, and the rest is the other ones.
Precisely right. So, but then there's other horses which are more long shots, which only move 1 space if there's a horse head. But one of them, I think, old
Regret
moves
moves 20 if you get a horse head. I think.
No.
Oh no,
saddle.
if you get a saddle.
Yeah. So you have 4 betting tiles. One represents 2 bets. One is a 0 to throw people off, and the other 2 are 1s. And you have to think, if there is, for example, a horse with a 7 in the horse head category, and garbage in the others, and then a horse like Regret, which will move absolutely nothing. If anything is rolled except for 1, but if you roll that 1 and you get a lucky roll on Regret 2 times, the game is over. They've won because 20 spaces is huge. But the other one is super consistent, and every round they will move 7. So
unless they get sabotaged.
But it's unlikely.
So how does sabotage work, though, Solea?
So if I put a 0 on Regret, but everyone else playing put bets on Regret, I can't see their bets, but I can guess that there's a good amount of bets on Regret. But I put a 0, and I don't want that horse to win because I won't get anything. So I might roll a horseshoe, and I might move Regret 1 to avoid having to...
So the people that want Regret to move have to wait until the right die result comes up to move it 6 spaces. But if somebody is betting against Regret, if somebody does not have any bet on Regret and sees that other bets are there, then that person is going to move Regret the least number of spaces. And once a horse is moved in a round, it cannot be moved again until all of the other horses in that round have been moved. Essentially, you flip over the tile for that, representing that horse, and it can't be moved again.
I think there was one game where a horse that nobody bet on won because my dad and my brother were in a Aiden and...
It wasn't Aiden.
It wasn't me.
Aiden never moved it.
I was frustrated.
But you guys were in kind of a war because my dad put a 0 on a horse that my brother bet on, and
I did the same
and
to a
vice
horse
versa.
that he bet on.
So my dad decided to
make a horse that no one would
be
benefit
a little
on
vexing
win.
and only move one horse, and that horse ended up winning.
Aiden's horse was closer to the finish line,
Yeah,
and
I
so
was about to win.
I decided I needed his winnings to go down.
Yep.
So a horse that had nobody's bet on it, I got across the line.
It was incredible.
Oh, it's a really fun game. It's a Rainer Knizia design. He's just amazing. He designed so many great games, including High Society and Samurai, which we'll talk about in a second. That's a really, really fun party game. What were you saying, Sol? Talk.
Teach you.
You want to talk about Tichu? Let's talk about Tichu, because that's one of the most played family games. Why do we play Tichu so often?
Mama loves it.
Yeah, it's her
Favorite game.
Moira Donnelly loves her some Tichu. I've talked about it on the podcast before a little bit in that it is the game that sings to her the most. Maybe because she likes card games to begin with, and it is a card game, right? It's a card game with a little bit extra, but it is a card game. So why do you think Mama likes that game so much?
She likes the teamwork in it. It's not like everyone's on the team, but you have a partner and you guys are working together. So one person might have to kind of destroy their hand to help the other person to win. And she really likes that teamwork.
What about you? Do you like that teamwork?
I do. In that game, I like the teamwork. It's kind of like poker, so it takes years to learn. And it's really tough. Like, I'm still trying to learn how it works and how to get points. But
do you remember
Do
you remember who won the last game of Tichu that we played as a family?
Me and Aiden.
Yes, you and Aiden.
Yeah.
You and Aiden destroyed me and Mommy.
It's a cardinal rule that me and Aiden cannot be paired together because my dad and my mom have been playing it for so long. They're
a legendary team.
Yeah, they have a perfect synchronization.
And that's one of the things that Mama likes about the game. She likes the fact that it is a good relationship game, right? It is a we are a good team. We work together because we sacrifice for each other. Now, I tend to get better cards, so she tends to give me her very best card. You can always pass one card to your partner each round, but when I don't have a hand where I think I can teach you, she knows that my very best card is going to come to her each and every time, and I'm never going to hang on to it in the hopes of being able to do something in the round. And that is crucial. And we've played many couples, and we have crushed many couples.
Except for that one time.
No, we play couples and we play hard, and I find that couples love this game because of that, because you're working together with your partner and you're trying to vanquish that other partnership that is just evil, just horrible. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that you guys are playing it because I think it is one of those games that when you guys go to college, you can take that game with you to college, and you can teach it to other people pretty easily. And it's a kind of game that people of all sorts, people that are non-gamers, total non-gamers, will play that game, fall in love with it, and you'll have something to do with them for the rest of your lives, which is pretty awesome.
Though I do enjoy it the most when it's specifically against you guys. Because it's I think for a lot of people it's a difficult idea to get around that they may have a hand that has a couple aces, and it's difficult to I think for some people to realize that they should give one of those aces away, even if it means that the rest of their hand is not going to work. They're not going to get out, but they should give that away. Because they're not going to call teach you. Their partner might. So
exactly,
you got to sacrifice a lot.
Exactly. That's the key to teach you is figuring out when to press it and when to sacrifice and how to be a good teammate when you can't communicate with your teammate. That's like a really, really key thing. And I got to say, for a high school junior and a high school freshman, you guys are very good at it. You guys are very, very good at that game, and I've been impressed by by the quality of your play. I think that's another game that you guys can make Uncle Paul cry at, and I highly recommend that you do so early and often. Another category of games that we play quite a bit are party games. Let's talk about party games because Solea, being the casual gamer, party games.
I love them.
Why?
Because they're quick, they're a fast play, and it's just fun. There's not all of that like waiting and what are you gonna do? Which I sometimes like in games. It's just a fun and fast-paced game.
Good. What would you say is one of your favorite party games? Solea is looking at a list of games she wrote down.
Telestrations.
Telestrations, Aiden says?
Not for me.
Solea likes telestrations. Solea, you're actually a good drawer.
Yeah.
Though the thing about so let's talk about telestrations first. The thing about telestrations is the best drawer does not necessarily do well at telestrations.
It's tragically true.
Friend of the pod, Nick Rivera, who I've played many times with, is, first of all, he's a contractor, and contractors need to learn how to draw. They need to know how to draw. He can draw amazing things. He got a clue once that was Last of the Mohicans, and he, in 30 seconds, as the timer's going off with a really junky dry erase marker, drew this Indian with tears coming down its eyes and Indians behind him in a row getting smaller and smaller as they disappear into the distance, and trees. And it was the most amazing thing I had ever seen in my life. And I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm pretty sure that's Last of the Mohicans. And sure enough, it absolutely was. But for every time he has a victory like that, he spends so much time on the drawing that he's not focused on, like, where's the arrow? What's the thing we're supposed to be focusing on? I'm seeing 20 different things in this amazing drawing, but I don't see the thing that's the most important. So, what do you think about telestrations?
I think it's a really fun game. I haven't played it in a while, but I really like it.
Yeah, we should get back on the table, shouldn't we? It's a lot of fun. The idea of telestrations, it's actually based on a public domain game called Eat Poop You Cat. The reason it's called Eat Poop You Cat is because it's essentially a game of telephone where somebody has a saying or a phrase or something at the beginning. A person has to draw what that phrase is. Then the next person doesn't see the original phrase. They only see the drawing, and they have to write down what they think the answer is. And then they pass that on. The person sees the second writing and then has to draw that, and so on and so forth until you get down to the end. And at the end, you can have some comically wrong interpretations of what that initial thing was, and you can see how quickly it went wrong, which is why the original game was called Eat Poop You Cat, because somebody, one of the very first times they ever played it, they got to the end, and the end is like, I'm pretty sure the person was trying to draw Eat Poop You Cat. So barely a game. Right? It's one of those experience more than a game, right? Some party games are good games in the sense that there's reasonable scoring and it makes sense and all that
Would Werewolf
sort of stuff.
be considered a party game?
Yeah, Werewolf would.
That would be my top favorite game.
That's your favorite game of all time?
Oh, that's hard. But I'd say it's in the top 4.
Good. Tell me about it.
It's similar to a playground game in elementary school called Mafia.
Yeah,
But
it's the same
it's-
game, actually. Same derivation.
Yeah, but it's a more complex, like better version.
Now, you've played it. We play it on Thanksgiving and Christmas and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And we jazz it up, right? We put on the right music.
Music.
And what else do we do?
Well, we just like know the people playing it so well, so we always get out Paul and my dad first.
Yes,
Yeah.
they murder us first. So Uncle Paul and me, we
Almost without fail,
tend
regardless.
to be sitting watching the game. Well, actually, usually I'm usually the moderator, so
Mm.
I'm usually not even playing. No, they murder Paul first, and drag him off to the lime pit to be stoned to death. Poor Paul.
But it's a storytelling game and a party game.
Very much so. And I find it's one of those weird things that we have seen such great play from people you would never expect great play from.
Absolutely.
Like my parents, who
Oh, yeah.
do not seem to be like gamers at all and aren't gamers in
Grandma.
a lot of ways, are amazing at this game. Like they're totally into it. And did you guys ever remember Uncle Bruce playing this game once?
Yes.
Yes, we're never gonna forget that.
He was really good at
He was
it.
so
Uncle Bruce
good.
is Moira's uncle, and quiet, reserved, really nice guy, Vietnam or Marine veteran, just sort of one of those stoic sorts. And then he gets into a game of werewolf, and what happens?
Oh, he like single-handedly
Kills
won
everyone.
for his team, and it was amazing.
He was like, "You're the one. It's you. You just outed yourself."
Dead right.
With his Texas accent, but everyone believes him because he's such an honest, like awesome person,
Yeah.
and no one could like think that he would be the werewolf. Or
So I have a theory about this. I think that generation plays a game like Werewolf and gets right into it because I think back in those days they would play parlor games. They would like be together, and listening to records at a party, and they would have party. Parlor games was a thing back in a certain era, and it was just something that people knew how to do. So I think it's something that we've kind of lost a little bit, but they totally access it immediately. I love a good game of Werewolf. I will tell you guys that we have a new game out called Blood on the Clock Tower, which is sort of Super Werewolf.
ooh,
It is werewolf with very specific roles and a lot more involved in terms of the deduction of who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. When it comes out, I'm going to be getting it. We're going to be playing it with the family. Solea, you in particular, I
would
think.
probably be right.
I think so. Aiden, for you, for party games, I think Wits and Wagers is one of your favorites.
I love Wits and Wagers.
Tell me about it.
It is a game in which you have cards that give you a question that has a number as its answer, right? So how many feet tall is the Burj Khalifa, right? Tallest building in the world. And then you have to guess. And everyone around the table writes down a number on a card. And then those are lined up across the board from lowest to highest.
And the board looks like a craps table.
It does.
The guess that is right in the middle of all the guesses. Let's suppose the guesses were 1 foot tall, 100 feet tall, 1,000 feet tall, 10,000 feet tall, and 1,000,000 feet tall. Right? There's something like that, right?
Yeah.
The one that's right in the middle, that one goes in the middle of the betting board, and that one pays off at 1-to-1 odds if it's right. The one on the end, that's going to pay off at 3-to-1 odds, and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
but the thing is that it doesn't really matter that much if you guessed right? Because it's not a traditional trivia game.
Yeah, you get you get money, chips if you put out the guess that is closest to the correct answer as well.
Yes, you do. You do get a little bit, but it's in comparison to the main mechanism, which is you put out betting cubes and use some of your own chips to back up those betting cubes to put bets on which answer you think is correct. And you're not betting, you don't have to bet on yourself at all.
Oh yeah, not at all. I mean, often you can use your own bet to try to skew things so that you get higher odds on something that you think is closer to the answer.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of random facts too. So I know that my brother and my dad know a lot of just random facts. So typically I go for their answers. I bet on their answers because I truly have no idea.
Yeah, and there is table presence, right? Sometimes we'll have a question and we'll realize, oh wow, Uncle Paul,
knows
he's the one
exact number.
Or Uncle Greg.
He was right. This one was a music question. Uncle Greg has got a good shot at this,
Yeah.
or Mama. She was a classical pianist, so they're really good at this. They got a good shot at this one. Uncle Paul is an engineer. He's got a really good shot at this particular question, and so you look at his answer and you say, well, where is he on that? If it's a history question, Aiden or I might have a really good shot at this. And then there are some that are, how many gallons of water fit in an Olympic-sized swimming pool?
I think I actually knew that one at a certain
And
point.
it's an astonishing number of gallons of water.
Right. But how do you come up with an educated guess? Like, what is the criteria by which you come with an educated guess? How do you do that?
I mean, if you know in general, like how many gallons of water are in like a 10 by 10 pool, you can maybe extrapolate that, but
Maybe. It's super, super hard. Very, very interesting game. I like it a lot. I think it's a really great one. Let's talk about a few more of our favorite games. Solea, your favorite genre is deduction games. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What are some of your favorite deduction games? You already said Mr. Jack. You already said Werewolf. Let's talk about a game like Scotland Yard.
I haven't played Scotland Yard in a while, but I remember really liking it. I love Nancy Drew. And Scotland Yard, you're playing famous detectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that like role play part was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't played it in a while.
And but Burgle Brothers, which is not exactly a deduction game, but is a little bit like that. What do you think about that one?
I thought it was okay. I don't remember it being my favorite. Is that the one with you're on each floor and you're trying to escape?
Yes, you're participating in a heist with the other burglars.
Yeah, once I haven't played it recent enough to be able to remember it, but I remember liking it fine.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good game as far as that goes. And then last but not least, I want to ask you about Mystery of the Abbey.
Ooh, Mystery of the Abbey is a really good game. Haven't played it in a while.
Why not? You
I
play
don't
Clue
know.
Mysteries more than you play
Well, it's a bit
Mystery
long.
of the Abbey.
Oh, it's a pretty long game, and also, I know at the beginning I said that the look of the board isn't a very important factor for me, but I feel like Mystery of the Abbey, the board is a little bit less interesting than Burgle Bros.
Yeah, Burgle Brothers has got a very good looking board, and actually, I love Scotland Yard. It's the map of London with the subway stops and the bus stops and the taxi stops and all that sort of stuff. I think that's a really gorgeous looking board.
For Mystery of the Abbey, I feel like it's a little more simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a Clue variant, right? It's basically the game of Clue, just with a few more bells and whistles on there.
It's definitely a very fun game to play, but I feel like with such amazing games like Scotland Yard and Mr. Jack, I would choose those over.
Now, I want to talk about one more party game before we get completely off topic, and that is the newest party game that we've been playing, or two new party games we've been playing. We've been playing Just One and Wavelength. Solea, Just One. You remember Just One?
With the numbers?
No, Just One is the one where we write on the little whiteboard, and
And if two people have the same guess, it's forfeit.
That one's really fun. We got every single one except for two. So you get a clue and you put it, the person who is guessing puts it on a little stand and they can't see it. And on the card, there's a list of numbers. So like number
Words.
1 might be lawn, or number
right.
2 might be, what was it called? Spartacus, or just random words.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll choose a number. So they'll say 3, and that could be like rose petals. And the other people write on a little whiteboard a word that
Just one. So
just
one
one
word.
that's going to get the guesser to guess rose petals.
Right, or rosebud, let's say.
Yeah.
Or
Because it's one word.
Oh, it's one word.
yeah, rose.
Rose.
Rose,
Yeah.
for instance. So what would you write for rose?
The
I
obvious.
I might
answer.
write flower. But the
Right.
problem is what happens if two people write the same word?
If 2 people wrote flower, they would each have to put their clues face down, and the guesser would not be able to see them.
So the key to the game is coming up with words that are not the first thing you think of, but together with the other people at the table are going to combine to get that person to answer that question, right?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun with that game, right?
Yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah. And for Solea, for the casual gamer, it is short.
Very fun.
It is short, and really it's not about winning. It's sort of more about the fun and funny moments you have in the game. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Right? What about Wavelength, Aiden?
I love Wavelength
It's a pretty amazing game.
because it's very tailored to how well you know the other person.
Yeah.
And what you would expect them to expect from you.
Yes.
So, it'll be basically a card that gives you two extremes. What is an example?
Let's see. There is a worst person in the world, best person in the world.
Right. And then there is a semicircle, essentially, right? Where, the person who will give us a clue spins it, and somewhere randomly in that semicircle, there is a number
Slice of
4.
pie,
Yeah.
let's say.
Thank you. There's a slice of pie in the middle. In a slim sliver, there is a single 4. Or
4 points if your team places the needle right on that section. 3 points if it's a little outside of that.
Flanking
2 points if
that.
it's outside of that, and anything outside of that 10-degree, 20-degree angle, no points at all.
Yeah, and it is a tiny portion of the entirety of that semicircle. So they're trying to give you a clue as to where in that semicircle, you're going to place a marker.
So, best person in the world, worst person in the world. If it's all the way down at the end on worst person in the world,
they might say Hitler.
Yeah, pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to justify not having the needle all the way down on Hitler? Like, well, he had some good ideas. Let's right. You're gonna have a problem.
He was an artist,
No, you're gonna have a problem.
You're gonna
with
go
that.
all the way to the right.
But the hardest is right in the middle. Who's someone who wasn't the worst and definitely wasn't the best, who could classify to be straight in the middle?
It's about a nuance, right? It's like, what if it's
was
not
someone
dead
that
center,
was-
but what if it's
Astonishingly.
what if it's halfway between the center and the worst person in the world? What do you say to your team? What single concept do you tell your team that is going to get them to say, well, he's definitely not one of the best people in the world, but he's not super awful, so we don't go too far that way. And the rest of your team is going to have this conversation, and their conversation is going to be, but it's Tom. What does Tom think about that person?
It
How great
was,
is that?
yeah, you're trying to get it in the other person's head. And as the clue giver, you also have to think, is this person going to think that I'm giving the clue from my train of thought or for their own train of thought?
Well,
Yes.
And for example, if we use best person, worst person, most of the clues that I wanted to give for that one were historical figures that not everyone at the table would know.
Yes.
More nuanced people.
You
That
said-
would have helped one person, but not the rest.
You
Yeah.
said a character from The Good Place.
I did.
But the only
That was a
mistake
debate.
with that was that me and my dad had watched a lot more of it. Or
No, it wasn't that we
more
watched.
recently.
No, we had
no,
seen
it's
the
that
same
we.
amount.
We had different perceptions of that character.
Yeah. So I was
Which, by the way, in a show that's about moral philosophy, that's of course what's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
not bad.
No, are you kidding me? He's very, very bad. He's like way closer to the worst person. We're like, what are you talking about? No.
Yeah, Aiden was thinking that this character was, not terrible, but definitely on the worst person side. But I had seen the new season where he was like an amazing person, or I don't know, like he had just improved.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's definitely a
You
better
just perceive
person.
that character very, very differently, and that happens in this game. It's one of those. It's one of those things that it's like the mind. It is a game that attempts telepathy.
Yeah.
Right. It's a game where the game rewards you for getting into the head of the people around you, and there is something wonderful about that experience when it works. When you flip open the thing and you see where that slice of the pie is and you're dead center and everyone's like, that's amazing. We're just you get this feeling of camaraderie. You get this feeling of we are in sync. Like you understand me in a deep way that I didn't realize until right now. And there's something kind of crazy good about that, right? Aiden, I want to talk to you because we didn't really get to too many more of your best games. Do you have any more of your best games? Like look down at the bottom of that list that I gave you for some of the.
Oh yeah. I mean, all four at the bottom of the list. I love Samurai.
Samurai is the Reiner Knizia game. It is a medium weight to medium heavier weight game, which is it takes place on the islands of Japan, and you're trying to win these pieces that are there, and you do that by surrounding territories with those pieces, right?
Yeah. It's a very fun game because you're trying to allocate resources to different places, and do you go for something undisputed, or do you try for one of the cities that's worth a lot more points? I mean, back when we played it a bit, I loved Pandemic Legacy. I'm warming up to Everdell. I'm still trying to decide how I feel about that game.
It's okay. You and Solea both. I think Moira and I like the game better than you two do. You're both sort of like, you're more on this. Aiden, you are more on the side of, I'm not sure there's enough depth of strategy here. And Solea's like, I'm not sure I want to be playing something this long.
Well, it's just...
Is that right, Sol?
That's exactly right. I don't know. Something about games over like 2 hours just...
It is not 2 hours. It's maybe 2 hours. Maybe
it feels like it's 2 hours.
Yeah, I'd say... it's odd. I haven't played it very much, but the times I have played it, I tried the same strategy with vastly different results. Where I went for only cards that would, I focused primarily on cards that would give me resources, so that later in the game, I would be able to afford basically a never-ending last round in the autumn season.
Yes.
But
you did. You crushed it.
I had so many resources. But the first time I tried that, it didn't work almost at all. So it's a bit odd to me, as well as, you tend to find a way to be in the first season for so much longer than everyone else. And even when I try to do that same thing, it hasn't worked out up till now. It's a game with so much variety and so many choices.
Yeah.
I haven't played it enough to find,
I think that's fair.
Reliable ways to win.
What about agree? Oh, go ahead, Solea.
I would agree that I might like it better if I played it again, now that I understand it just a little bit better.
Yeah, we're very new to Everdell. As I've said on this podcast many times, Matt took my copy and held on to it for a very long period of time during the pandemic. Just joking. Matt was like, "Why do you keep ragging on me for having it? You can have it back." Aiden, Agricola. We never talked about Agricola, but you have played Agricola more than most people your age by far.
Oh, I love Agricola. I mean, the first time around, you don't know what's coming up, but after that, you know that toward the end, you're going to be able to have a fifth person, and, when the fences and all that kind of thing come up, it is a really fun game, because it is a game that, you kind of have to balance. You got to...
And last but no, it's good.
Yeah.
You have to really figure out, if somebody is taking this, I can no longer do that. What do I do instead?
And when you're not going first, you're not going to get enough wood.
Yep.
So you gotta figure out what you're gonna do based on that.
Which it has translated into Everdell. There's a space in Everdell which allows you to get 3 wood, and no one else can get 3 wood.
Yep.
And what does your mother do every time?
Immediately takes all the wood because of the legacy of Agricola.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what she does. And then last but not least, the game that you have played far more than anyone your age group, by far. What do you think?
High Frontier.
High Frontier is correct.
Yeah.
Aiden, what age did I start you off playing High Frontier?
I don't even remember. It was a bit young, though.
10 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
I think at age 10, I said, Aiden, you like space.
Love it.
Let's try a realistic expropriation of solar system resources game.
Yeah.
And I taught you that game, and we played it. We must have played it about 100 times.
So many times. It was. I adored that game because it has a gorgeous board.
Oh, I picked it as the most beautiful board in board gaming history.
I mean, I would probably agree with that. Actually, Rebellion.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Star Wars Rebellion.
It's just more colorful.
Star Wars Rebellion. Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I mean, it is fantastic. I mean, I've always been fascinated with space travel and such, and to have like everything from radiation belts to Lagrange
points, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't want to pronounce that wrong. To even like degrees of effectiveness of solar sails, the farther away you get from the sun, and saying I could launch this expedition into space with very little cost in water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because with water you can split it into hydrogen as fuel and oxygen as, you know, being something you can breathe through electrolysis. But, you know, I could launch it very quickly, but it can't get very far from Earth.
Yeah.
Because if I try to go to any distant asteroids or distant planets, it's going to run out of thrust. And it is such a fun game, especially when you get into the later game when you can flip cards over to their, for example, thrusters to a side where they are far more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thruster that has, like, it's the worst thruster in the game. Like, you have to spend so much fuel to get like so little mass anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But if you build factories on asteroids that provide you with the materials to upgrade it, it becomes the most efficient thing in the game. It's incredible. You could go anywhere. And you know, the fun thing, or one of the other things I loved about the game was a lot of the technologies in it were real, whether it was models for something that people were trying to design or experimental thrusters or things that already existed.
The Hall effect thruster in the game is currently being used by SpaceX's satellite network right now. They're using that to put things into different places. So yeah, all of that stuff is being used. Would you shake your sister to wake her up after that long explanation of?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Electrolysis. That's what. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's good. It's good. So, where do you see yourselves, like when you go to college and when you go off into your lives? What do you think you're going to take from your youth of gaming?
The ability to lose.
Oh, good. Talk about that.
Well, from the age of very young, we've been playing a lot of games, and it was, I feel like, at an earlier age than what is normal, I learned losing, and that not everything's about winning, but mostly how it's like okay to be sad that you lost, but it's not okay to let it completely overpower you and like control your emotions for the rest of that day. And because in life you're gonna lose all the time.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. I mean, hopefully not all the time, but
but you're not gonna get like everything that you want. And,
yeah. That's an awesome answer. Aiden, what about you?
She stole mine. I mean,
is that the same thing?
Well, this is something I've talked about a lot. But yeah, it's I have to an extent when I was younger, you actually would let me win at a decent amount of games a decent amount of the time. So I never felt like I was like just absolutely getting beat up on. And you balance that really well. But I have learned to handle loss in a minor sense better than I think I would have through just about anything else. Because for example, Twilight Struggle.
Yeah.
A game we have played a decent number of times.
Sure.
A game I have lost a majority of those times, and it is an emotional investment for me because I am sitting there 3 hours desperately trying to do anything I can to hold on to Asia as you slowly pick apart.
Your capitalist pigs will die in their own vomit.
My weak defense. And it's just, after playing 3 hours and doing my best and still just getting brutally destroyed, I had to come to terms with the fact that this game is not everything,
Yes.
At the moment, it may feel like a big deal,
sure.
But, I can be a little bit disappointed, but I have to be respectful of your victory.
Sure.
I should congratulate you and move on.
I will say this. I'm going to say the flip side of this, which is it's also made you guys good winners.
Yeah,
You guys have become very, very, you've become gentlemen and ladies at a gaming table and in other circumstances. You have empathy for people that are not doing well when you are doing well, for people that are losing when you are winning, and you have learned, for the most part, how to be gracious about that. And as everybody at Game Brain would like to say to you right now, please teach your father how to do that. That would be a great thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. You guys are very. You're very good at the game table. You're very good, and I see that in other aspects as well. I see you guys being more gentle than you used to be with each other and with other people. Not always. We'll have bad days and we have bad moments, but I see that as being something very important. Because listen, life is competitive. Life in the United States is competitive, and there's going to be a lot emotionally put into those experiences that you're going to have your entire lives. And hopefully gaming is a safe place to model some of that.
Yeah.
And to figure out how to do it better. And I think you guys are well on your way.
Yeah, and especially for me, sometimes to learn the lesson that to win is not always the paramount objective.
Yeah.
'Cause, sometimes I'll play a game and I'll be feeling pretty competitive, and I will play that game. I will stick by the rules, and I want other people to play their best as well. But sometimes people are just there to like hang out with friends, hang out with family, and the game is just a way for them to do that.
Yeah.
Especially with SOLEA.
Yeah.
And sometimes
non-gamer.
Dimitri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
My friend
lesson
Jake.
I'm still learning. Sometimes I got to be like, hey, this is a social activity. Don't ruin it for everyone by being overly competitive.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. And listen, I hope that in your own ways, that as you go on through life, that you'll find a way to incorporate some of this. The games that you like, the games that speak to you. Because, listen, you guys are living in a world that is becoming more virtual by the day. And in the last month, boy, has that increased, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Right? So I hope that when we come out the other side of this, that we're all as a people going to sort of put more of a premium on actually getting together and being together in the same place and doing things physically together, which for me is the reason I game. That's it. It's like I don't play. You guys see me. I don't play video games.
No,
I really don't. I want to be with people and interacting with them, and that's the important thing. And I think that's a great thing to take from gaming. All right. I've kept you guys long enough. First of all, thank you guys so much. You guys crushed it. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to do one last thing before we go off. So I'll sing your praises again in a few minutes. But right now, I'm going to go down a list of games that you guys have played, and I want you to give just sort of a one word response each to what that is. Okay?
Sure.
Teach You.
Love it.
Good.
Ricochet Robots.
Fantastic.
I love it.
Codenames.
Really good.
Excellent.
Memory.
Oh, yeah.
There's just not much to it.
Painful. Painful. I'm
It
going to say
hurts.
painful.
It hurts.
The Mind.
Good.
Fantastic.
For Sale.
Ooh, it's pretty good.
A bit repetitive.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
good.
Dominion.
Boo.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long.
Boo.
Boo.
Good.
No,
it's
not
good.
boo.
Boo's okay.
It's for sure not the game for me, because it takes 6 hours. But
Take 6
No.
hours.
Dominion?
You haven't played it in forever, but yeah, no, it's an hour and a half game.
Is it Democker?
Are you thinking of Democker?
I'm thinking of Democker.
We've never played
no.
Democker.
No, Dominion is the game is the game where you have a hand of money cards and stuff like that, and you're buying the cards out in front of
The
you.
bazaar.
And some of the cards you buy like give you an extra action or give you an extra buy.
I still stand by my reaction.
I love Dominion.
I like short games, but I respect people who like it.
High Society.
I don't remember.
You guys don't remember High
It's
Society?
been
We're gonna have to
so
bring it
long.
back out again because it's so good.
Yeah.
Seven Wonders.
Yay. Very good.
With anyone but our family.
Splendor.
It's okay.
Yeah. Don't love it.
Mama's second favorite game, so we'll say that.
Yeah.
Love Letter.
Great.
Very enjoyable.
Wavelength.
Pretty good.
Werewolf.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's good.
Modern Art.
Very fun.
Pretty good.
Another Reiner Knizia game.
Yeah.
AIDAN. Fugitive.
Fugitive.
That's the two-player deduction game where one person is the fugitive and the other person, you're playing the cards and they have the numbers.
Oh, yes, the numbers. That's a really fun one.
Cartagena.
Simple, but good.
Go ahead, Sol.
It's okay.
It's okay. Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
It's pretty good.
Welcome to the Dungeon.
I think that game is a solid. Like,
It's a short play. It's a lot of fun.
Pit.
great.
It's fun.
Super fast. Has a bell. It's
AIDAN?
really fun.
Yeah.
Catan.
I here's the thing about Catan.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Jesse, hang on.
Yeah, it's one of those games that if I ever am like, hey, to friends, do you guys want to play a board game? Or I ask, what board games do you know? It's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I know Monopoly, I know Settlers of Catan. It's like, for that reason, I despise it, but it's a good game. I enjoy Catan.
Okay, there you go. Ticket to Ride.
Oh, it's fantastic,
Childhood
especially
trauma.
Yeah, that's fair.
Trauma, SOLEA.
Yeah, I think it's a great game now, but oh boy.
We played. That was one of the first bigger games we played with you when you were a little girl.
Yeah, I don't think I got through one game until I was 13.
SOLEA just wanted to get the rainbows.
It's true.
The engines.
It's especially Europe.
Yes,
because
Europe is tough. Europe can be blocked.
No, Europe you can't. It's harder. to be
that's right.
blocked.
There you go.
That's what's so great about it.
There you go. Bonanza.
Fantastic.
Growing on me, I'd say it's okay.
You guys don't remember Alhambra, which is shocking to me.
I do.
Because we played it a lot. What do you think?
I loved Alhambra. It's fantastic. It's a colorful game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. SOLEA, Spot It.
Great on the road game.
Lame.
Interesting. SOLEA likes all of the timed games, the games where it's like the faster your response is, the better you do.
It's a very, very simple game, and I wouldn't want to play it more than once.
Yes.
Like in a
row.
an extended period of time.
Sure.
But...
What about Lupin Louie?
Oh, my childhood.
I don't know why it was ever
great
such a
game
big
for
thing.
younger kids.
It is fun.
Jungle Speed.
Great.
It's good.
AIDAN, Lost Cities.
Okay. So here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
You liked this game more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. It's a short game. It's entertaining. It's fun.
Okay.
Yeah. But
That's fair enough.
I don't love it.
AIDAN and SOLEA, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You came in here and you crushed it. I think people are going to really like this episode. I think they're going to find that, that they're going to hear echoes of their own opinions in the next generation. I think that's going to be heartening. They're also going to hear some very sort of different ways of looking at things. What I love about you guys is your intentionality. When you come and play a game with me, you play with your heart, you play with your soul. You try and be, you try and engage with it as best you can in all kinds of ways. And I'm so happy to have had so much fun with you guys over the years gaming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
both
you.
for coming on the podcast.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.